We've been talking about leadership in the home as we talk about leadership, and any discussion of especially leadership in the church begins with leadership at home. Leadership has to start and begin in the home, and then it extends out into the church. So Brother Maxwell has been covering leadership in the home so far, thus far, in his lessons. And so he said that he had just a few questions. So if you're looking at the questions from for his part one of his lesson that he had passed out several weeks ago, we're going to try to cover the last two parts of, of that lesson, and then try to maybe launch into, I said I'd try to get into lesson two. So we're going to look at the last couple of questions in lesson one. Slide. There we go. Back up there. Back up there. Back up. There we go. All right. So we were looking at, there's a question here that we had, and was what are our obligations toward our neighbors? And so we've been looking at several aspects, talking about leadership in the home, how leadership begins in the home, how leadership is to be conducted. And so the question is, before question 8 was our outlook toward our employers and toward the employer and the employee. So we talked about, so that is about, so Brother Maxwell talked about that from Ephesians, how we if we're going to be leaders, we have to be great workers in the workplace. We have to put on the right attitude in the workplace as we deal with others and as we work with our co-workers. And so now we look at our obligations toward our neighbors. Do we have obligations we have obligations as Christians, but if a man's going to be a leader, there's obligations that we have in our neighborhood. Let's go to the text that we have listed there, and that's Romans chapter 12, verses 14 through 18. Let's go to Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12. And talk and discuss a little bit what are our obligations in our neighborhoods as it concerns leadership. Romans chapter 12. Verses 14 through 18.
Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men.
All right. So there are several things there. Let's pick out some of those bits and pieces that Paul talks about. Now, we have to put this in context. Paul is talking about our relationship to that. As he's talking to the church of Romans, he's talking about the relationship to us, each other as Christians, okay? But we can apply that and slide that over and apply that because there's a lot of good things that will help us in our relationship with our neighbors. So let's just pick off some of those little pieces in there. And starting with verse 14, bless them which persecute you. Bless them which persecute you. Bless and curse not. All right. So that is emphasizing that we're going to be, as we look on the screen, we're going to be patient. We're going to be patient as we deal with others. I'm sure you talked about it in the workplace, and we can talk about it in our neighborhood. Are we going to run into people? We do at our workplaces. We do in our homes. Are we going to run in and deal with people who are a bit contentious? Will we have some neighbors that are a bit contentious? Will you have some neighbors that maybe do some things sometimes that can get on your nerves in your relations? I would mess with Brother Dismute right now because Brother Dismute in his previous place had a guy across the street Did not like him. Did not like him. Some people don't like you, but they kind of control their dislike toward you. This person did not like Greg and didn't mind showing Brother Dismute and to him, in front of family, in front of anybody who was over, that that man did not like Brother Greg, who lived across the street from him. So how do we deal with contentious neighbors? How do we deal with people who are contentious, who don't mind letting you know, I don't have nothing for you. I don't have nothing for you. I don't care about you. And it could be the obvious physical things. It could be racial because they're of one race and you're of another. But it's just some people. There's some people that just don't like people and don't know how to get along and don't know how to work in close relationships with people. And so you get within your neighborhood, you're in close proximity. Does anybody live in a place where your neighbors several feet away, 3-4 miles? You got your Okay, so you got it right beside that. That's pretty much all of us. I don't think any of us have that influence where your neighbor's 3 miles down the road. So we all have to work in these communities where we proximity, where we're going to transverse against people. You come out, there are going to be people walking. There are going to be people on this side and that side. And sometimes people in your neighborhoods don't do the same things that you do. Sometimes, depending on where you live, they don't go to bed the same time you go to bed. On the weekends is when they want to woo-ha and turn up the music, and you trying to go to bed because you coming to worship the Lord, but 12 o'clock is just when they're getting started, and so you have that type of things. But then there's just other things as boundaries, you have a yard, but do we have big old marks down our yard? And I know unless you live with a neighbor who's like that, that designates, so it can hard to tell what's your yard and what's their yard. And so, but if you live somewhere for a while, you kind of know, okay, this is the line. I can see where this is, and this is kind of that. But sometimes there's some people that just don't recognize boundaries. They might cross over. They might cut your yard. They may decide that part of your yard, Bob, is their yard. And so when they have a barbecue and people over, their stuff, they got chairs in your yard, and they're like, well, this is kind of my yard. Courtesy would kind of demand that if hey, if you would like to encroach over a little bit, that you come knock on the door. Hey, Bob, I'm having some people over, and would it be any problem if we have some people in this space? Bob says, man, no problem. Just clean up whatever is fine. But that knock never happens. You just wake up, or you just get out and you look up, and they've all kind of spilled over. So you got those kind of things as we live in neighborhoods and try to work within a community. But there's some obligations that we have as Christians, and especially if we're going to be leaders in God's church, of how we deal. So we have to have some patience. We have to have some patience. Paul says in verse 14, bless them which persecute you and curse not. Bless them. Bless them. Where did Paul get this advice from? Who said something like this? Our Lord Jesus Christ said that. We don't trade insults with insults. When they revile, we revile not. Did Jesus ever display that? Did Jesus ever display that? Display that virtue of not going back and forth. When did he do it? When was the greatest time he did it? On the cross, and before that, in the trial with the Pilate, and in the trial with the Sanhedrin. They were cursing him and calling him a blasphemer. He gets with the Romans. They're slapping him with the hand and saying all kind of manner of things about him. And what did Jesus do? They say nothing. Yes, Ms. Jones.
It was in a sense of how the spirit that they were in. Mm-hmm. Even though Jesus did contend back with them, he wasn't in that same spirit that they were in. They were doing it to discredit him.
Yes, ma'am.
His contending with them was in truth.
Yes, yes.
And that's what I was thinking about, the spirit that he was in when he did contend with them.
Yes, yes. So that contention was in public, public kind of debate and public going back and forth. But we're talking about in a sense of where people are just out now, just cursing you and saying all kind of vile things about you. Jesus showed great restraint by not saying nothing. Brother Greg.
Isaiah prophesied he would be Isaiah 53 like the lamb for this year. He's not going to open his mouth. And you just think about the prophecies, his voice wasn't going to be heard in the street, he wasn't going to do to read and all these kind of things. So you can kind of get a sense of what kind of person he was going to be. The kind of person that would not retaliate and would not get evil for evil, which is what you refer to with Paul and Peter.
Yes.
Said that about our Lord and told Christians, this is what you follow. Our Lord certainly led the way, because when you think about the very power that he had when he was in the garden, telling Peter then, if I wanted to be rescued from this, I could presently call my father, the angels are ready.
Yeah.
That word presently indicates that they were actually right there, ready to come. All God had to do was say, go, they're there.
Yes.
And wreak havoc. And Jesus says, I could get out of this moment if I want to. I wouldn't need 12 disciples to do it. I got 12 legions of angels.
Yeah.
And we didn't utilize that power.
No, he didn't use that power because he had a great goal in mind. But picking out some things here, Paul says, bless them which persecute you. We don't curse not, we don't revile back. Rejoice with them that rejoice, and weep with them that weep. What is he talking about? What is he talking about? That would be our second point here. So, not exchanging insults with people, that's patience. That's having restraint and resolve and restraint. Knowing who we are, who we belong to, that we don't do those type of things, that we don't stoop down to that level to exchange those kind of insults. But being able to have empathy, and so when we look at compassion, Paul tells us to be compassionate, rejoice with them that rejoice, and weep with them that weep. So we're happy with those who are happy. We weep with them that weep. So that not only internally within the body, we do that with each other. When we have occasions where there's time to rejoice, we rejoice with folks that have a good day and celebration. But then we also weep with those who had sadness and do that. Can we do that with our neighbors? Can we do that with our neighbors? Yes, certainly we can do that to our neighbors. And me and Brother Greg just had this conversation last night. Those times of joy and happiness and those times of sadness and sorrow, you know what they will be? Your greatest evangelistic opportunities. They're your greatest evangelistic opportunity. When you come in where people are at a low mark, and you come in and you show the love of God and the grace of God, and come in and do some things, and through that, you can make a great ministry, and people will remember, man, I remember you came over when, family across the street, they lost somebody or gone through a terrible moment, and you come over and console them. Sometimes maybe they're not church affiliated or anything, but you come over and you give them some word of console. Maybe you bring some things to them to help them out. You cook a meal and bring it over. Those are some great evangelistic times, because after those times are over, that might be a chance that you have an open door, that they might invite you to come over and sit down. Or when they have a celebration, their child just graduated from high school or from college, and you send them on a little card. I know I try to do that with my neighborhood. This guy lived across over on the back other side of me, and his son had a baby, so I took them a little bag, with some stuff in it, and gave it to him. Hey, yeah, this time your son comes down, and y'all go give this to them. And then there was the lady that lived next to them, young couple, military couple. She had a baby, so I took them a bag with some baby things for them. And so, now we've got a great relationship. When they walk their dog in the street, hey, how you doing? We talk, and then plus, he's military. He's in the Air Force now. I was in the Air Force. She's a teacher. I'm a teacher. So hey, we're going back to school. So now we've got something. I've got some positive influence, some positive love deposit with them just by doing those things, celebrating those little moments. And other young people that grow up on the street, you've seen them grow up and run around as little kids, and then one day they have a sign out, they're graduating. So I always try to take them a card, put a little money in there, take them a card, just to celebrate with them. and let them know. So those are some things that can be helpful in our neighborhood. We want our neighborhood, we want to try to be as friendly as Paul is going to say it. He's going to say it also. You know, our whole goal is to be peaceable and to live at peace. If possible, we try to live at peace with those who are around us. So, verse 15, rejoicing and weeping with people, that will show our compassion. In verse 16, be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but consent to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceit. So that would be the quality of being a humble person. Being a humble person. Certainly, you deal with a lot of people who are going to be haughty and going to be upright and forthright about, and when they're haughty and kind of forthright with their own opinion, whose opinion counts? Yes, we know that, but to them, these type of people whose opinion counts, theirs, their opinion. When you're humble, we can what? We can see both sides of the street. We can see both sides of the issue. And a lot of times in dealing with things with people, I'm not necessarily right. You're not necessarily right. I'm not necessarily wrong. You're not necessarily wrong. But we just got to find that median. We got to find that place where, okay, I agree. I'll take care of this, and then you take care of this part. I agree that this part of this is my responsibility, and that part is your responsibility. That's humility to be able to do those things. But folks who don't have that, that ain't my fault. Ain't none of it my fault. Yeah, but the branch was attached to the tree that's in your yard. The branch fell on my heart. Well, you should have cut it down. That's your problem. It was hanging over your. And so, you know, a humble person would say, "Hey, look, I know that was my branch. Yes, it was hanging in your yard, but hey, let's work together. Yeah, we'll take care of this. I do this. We'll take care. And we'll fix this damage. We'll fix the fence. We'll do that. That's humility. We work together. Yes, no, that's not totally. Yes, it is your fault, but it's yeah, I could have gone up and maybe trimmed that thing off so that it wouldn't have happened. But it's happened. So, but humble people work together. But when you get with somebody who's conceited and high-minded, and those people that don't want to give an inch, they're not going to give in. They're not going to give in or make any concession. Why? Did I see a hand or comment? Yes, Brother Greg.
So that gentleman across the street from me, Bob, I don't know if Bob will remember this, but Bob was with me, first introduction with this gentleman. He was helping me to the house, and we were sitting outside of his truck. And that guy kind of walked by, and I said, "Hey, how you doing, sir?" And he ignored me. And Bob looked at me and said, "That guy's speak to you?" I said, "No." And so that was kind of my first introduction. A lot of things happened in between where he said a lot of things, did a lot of things, even when he got it done one time. Mm-hmm. But in the end, I never responded to him in negative kind. I just kept speaking to him, saying hello to his family, stuff like that throughout the year. By the time I was getting ready to move there, before I was moving, he was waving at me and speaking to me. And so we never got a chance to have a conversation, but he saw that. Yeah. Because I never did respond negatively or in kind to him. And see, that's positive behavior. That goes back to patience. That goes back to being patient. Are we gonna win people over just because? Okay, you a nice guy, Bob. I know you're a nice guy, but that guy down the street don't know you a nice guy. Don't think you a nice guy. And so and so, Greg, how long was you over there? 3 years? 4 years. 4 years. 4 years. What if it takes 10 years, Bob? How long you been in your neighborhood? You lived in your house for what, 20 years? 30 years. 30 years. You still got some people that are icy? You have any neighbors that are kind of icy?
Well, they moved.
They go.
I got great neighbors.
See, Bob's outlast. See, that's his patience. He done a lot outlast the neighborhood that flip, change. The people that didn't get along with you, along since moved off, and Bob is the last man standing. So, but it takes time as Christians. We have to work for it. Paul would tell us in Ephesians, in chapter 4,
endeavoring to what? Keep the unity that the Spirit brings in the bond of peace. Now he's talking to us in the church, but it can also apply. You have to endeavor to keep that. And so sometimes it may take years of what, like Brother Greg said, being patient and you just keep up. You don't just turn off like, okay, the first couple times. Greg could have done this because that man didn't speak to him how he like, well, forget you, man. I ain't gonna act like I see you. I'm gonna turn my back and do all this kind of things. What happened? You joined the war with him. You get in the war with him and goes, oh, okay. You want to play that game? Guess what? He can play that game better than you. And he will play that game. And then so he'll take all of that stuff. See, I knew that guy wasn't no good. See how he insulted me? See, now your insults, you're doing it in kind to him. He'll take it as an all-out attack on him. And he'll look at your insults a lot worse than the way you looked at his insults towards you. But by continue to be in your good behavior and be on your good posture and all that stuff, you eventually will wear away. Eventually will wear away. Eventually wear, and that's what we have to do. Now, see, the short game is just to act in kind toward people. That's the short game. We're in it for the long game. We're in it for the long haul because we have what the Bible says we're supposed to have. Love. Love covers a multitude of sins. It's the long game. It's the longer road to take. It's the harder road. It's the more patient road, but it's the only one that's going to win in the end. Love. The only one that will win. Yeah, you have to be dedicated. You have to be humble. You got to stay under some things sometimes. You got to deal with some things, and it takes a longer time to what? See the fruits of it. But it'll bear some fruits. You just won't see it for a while. But it took Greg 4 years to even see, just acknowledgement that he even existed. Now, what if Greg stayed another 8 years? Greg might be baptizing that guy. But it takes time to wear away. Did anybody know, anybody ever mess with rocks growing up? Rocks, stones, and minerals and gems? You know, you can take, I did it when I was a kid and my grandson did it. So I know a lot about it because my grandson knows everything about rocks and gems. Anyway, I got him one of these little experiment projects. You take these stones, you put them in the little container, throw this water and some different things in there, and you turn it on and you let it sit. And it spins for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Now, what goes in there is some rough rocks and stuff like that. But what you got to realize is there's something in there, but you got to get that exterior off. But then if you let that thing run and you're patient and don't open it every day, if you let that thing run, at the time it says when you turn that thing off and open it up, what comes out of there? Smooth. And they're beautiful. You're like, man, this didn't go in there, but it comes out smooth and beautiful. And so now with that, if you're patient enough, you can take those nice, smooth, beautiful stones. You know what you can do? You can make a pendant, necklace. You can make a bracelet. You can make all kind of little jewelry and little crafts and sell it. But you have to be patient with it to let those rocks erode and for that rough exterior to come away, for it to come out with this beautiful, smooth stone, this gemstone that had all these beautiful colors in it, but you didn't see it at first because it's rough and jagged. But once you put it in that thing and let it wear away. So that's us. That's love. That's Christ. That's us. Over and over, day in, day out. Each interaction, each time, they insult you. Get that car out of my way. Hey, how you doing? Thank you. Get that off. Man, good to see you. Years before you can just get a, how you doing? Or maybe get them not to yell at you. You gotta be dedicated to this. You gotta be dedicated to the long game. And so this goes back there. You might have to do that at work. You might have a boss, rough, gruff. You got a boss, you come in, hey, you speak, hey, how's everybody doing? How was your weekend, Stephanie? You speak to everybody, and they're like, Stephanie didn't say nothing. But Stephanie comes in, hey, how's it going? Great weekend. Y'all had great. Hey, y'all ready to go to work? What do you do with that? It hurts. It hurts. It don't feel good for people not to speak to you and recognize you, but you have to you have to be able to deal with it. I had to talk to my youngest daughter because she said, Dad, I go to work and I speak, and the boy, he just don't say nothing. I said, welcome to the real world, baby. Welcome to the real world. Not everybody's gonna speak to you. I said, don't lose you. You stay you. You keep doing what you're doing. Don't lose it. Don't play that game. Don't get sucked into it. I said, just stay you. They got a problem. Just keep speaking. Keep being who you are. Say hi. Say hello. Don't cut it off. Don't keep being you. You're playing that long game. We're that stone. We're the one that's gonna keep what? Wearing away. Jesus was that stone. He was the stone. He was the rock of offense. Jesus came and offended a lot of people because what? Just because he was. Because because of the thing. They could see the things he was doing, but it offended people. Why? Because he didn't come the way they expected him to come. He wasn't what they expected him to be, like David, to sit on the throne. He was Messiah. He was doing the things that the prophets say the Messiah should do, but the scripture said he was a rock of offense. He was stone. He was set at naught by the builders. They didn't want to build on him. But Jesus said God put him as what? The chief cornerstone to build the church on him because of his truth. So we have to be that rock. Questions, comments before we leave this. So we need to have some patience. We need to have some compassion. We need to have some humbleness, some humility to be able to deal with some people and to deal with some situations and not to be high-minded, not to be conceited. Paul goes on to say in verse 17, recompense to no man evil for evil, provide things honest in the sight of God. So we're not going to trade evil for evil. They weren't over your water hose, so you find some way to get back at them. It's easy because when little things, little offenses like that happen, and I'm not doing anything to you, doesn't it get you angry? Yes, you get angry. Is it all right to be angry, to get angry about some of those things? What does the Bible say about anger? Don't sin. Yes, we get to be angry is to be what? Is to be human. Is to be real. Yes, man, that frustrates me every time he runs over my garden hose. But I'm not going to sin. I'm not going to think of ways like, man, how can I get this guy back? And so we start playing this game. He does this. We try to find a little way, and we try to look innocent, but we just still try to find a way where I'm going to just park a little inch over and make him have to go around. I'm going to do this. So we start playing this little, Paul said, don't do that. Don't trade evil. That's trading evil for evil. We trade evil for what? For good. We're good because we don't respond and we don't thing. And even though they might insult us or they might be purposely doing some things to get up under our skin and insult us, we act like it didn't happen. Now, that's not to say, however, that's not to say that at some point, some things may get to a point where you have to do what? Hey, how you doing? We're Corey and Brittany. We live right here. There's been a problem with this, and this. And we would like to see if we can work something out. However, sometimes we can just look the other way, but sometimes it means that we have to gotta address it. No, it's too much. This is going too far. We gotta talk about it. But how are we gonna do it? We're not going, hey man, you don't do that, man. No, we don't do that. We don't do that. Hey, we're the Hectors. We live next door. Hey, we do this. And the other thing we don't do is we don't pick up the phone. Yes, 911. I need a car over here right now. That's the world now. The world, you do something, you step on the grass. 911. There's some people I don't recognize, some strangers walking on my grass. They call it for frivolous things that don't mean nothing. Wasting taxpayers' dollars because now here the police have to roll out. They're going to take it as a serious issue. Now they got to talk to people and interview and try to get, okay, what happened? What did you do? What did she say? And there's other major issues. There's accidents, there's crime. They need to be out taking care of these things, not little indiscretions between neighbors. But now the police are being pulled into all these different things because somebody's sitting in the park, somebody's at the pool. All these little things are coming out that could be worked out with a different attitude. Yes, it's Matt.
In regards to like, our political and civic duties and how like people think, we gotta vote for president and make sure that, Christian values are maintained. But at the end of the day, the Christian values of your day-to-day interaction, the president is not gonna fix that kind, the governor is not gonna fix that kind, your local authority is not gonna fix that. It's you and it's interpersonal relationships that have broken down. And the more we're Christians, the more we can mitigate some of that. It's like people choose to go straight to authority above, expecting them to solve the problems, when we should be solving those problems one to another.
If we would just be human with each other, and again, it goes back to what? Love, some brotherly kindness and compassion. You wouldn't need to go to authority. We only need authorities when there's major trespasses. Somebody's broken into your house. There's been a murder. Some kids have come down the street shooting guns. Now we need the police because they are duly put in authority and power to deal with those things, to investigate, to get fingerprints and go and get corroborated witnesses and things like that. They're duly responsible for those type of things. But the neighbor run over your water hose, that's something we can work. Just some understanding, some humility. We can deal with those but those are human issues. Governments and institutions are not meant to deal with those type of things. And governments, institutions, do they do a good job of dealing with those things? Sadly, they do not. But we're in a place in time where we put so much on and we expect and the same rhetoric. I get tired of it. This is the election that's going to break it. Well, you said that in 2020. You said that in 2016. You said that in 2012. You said that, but this is no, it's not. No, it's not. It's the most important thing in this moment. Yes, it's important right now, but this is not it because in 2028 they're going to say, this is the election. If you don't go vote, that's just rhetoric to get us to go participate. They're technically they're all important. You should participate if you participate civically. They're all important. One is not more important. It's important right now, but in 4 years you're gonna say that one is the most significant. So there's that empty rhetoric, but people put a lot of trust in governments and those type of systems where they don't do the best job. The best job is one-on-one as we relate with each other as human beings. But Paul says, recompense to no man evil for evil. And then this is the other point we have. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. To be honest, to tell the truth about things. Sometimes, people, do we live in a world where people fabricate things? People fabricate things. And so sometimes, you live with somebody, you came out, you may have just kind of nicked over something, but your neighbor come out, man, Corey, man, your tire was all over my yard. And you're like, no, it wasn't. I just may have caught the little corner of it and grazed it as I was coming out. But to that guy, man, you tore it up, man. You tore my grass up. Your tire was all over here. People fabricate. They take this and they blow it away. As we used to say, they take a mountain or molehill and turn it into a mountain and turn it in. Now he's insulted. Okay, Corey, he had his garden hose out. It shouldn't have been out. It kind of hung over your driveway. You didn't see it. You get in the car, you leave, you run over it. Now he's going to be and what kind did you have? Man? Let me run down to the Ace Hardware. I get you new. Technically, what can Bob and Corey, he's a fixer type of guy. What did he do? Oh, the end got smashed? Cut that thing off, get a new one, put it on there. Good as new. You only maybe listen a couple little bitches to eat, but this guy's gonna act like you tore up the whole thing. Man, this ruined. I can't use that one. Man, Corey's like, man, all I do is just cut it off, put new in on it. So, but what you do, keep peace. Like, What'd you have? Let me run down Ace Hardware store. I'll get you in. And you bring it, and then Corey say, man, let me have that old one. You unscrew it, Corey take it back in the shop, cut it off, put a new end on it. Now he got another Warhol. Satisfied, get that back. But those things, be honest. We don't have to misrepresent things. We don't have to make this turn into this. But we live in a world where people misrepresent all the time. But Paul tells us to keep things honest. And if we're not careful, we can fall into that, to kind of misrepresent and kind of stress things, when this happened, but we say, oh man, it's this, man, you tore it up. Somebody did a little scratch on your car. Oh man, you did it, man, you ruined it. I gotta go. It's gonna cost $500. No, it's just gonna cost you some wax and a little grease, and that'll come right off. But now people are in a position in life where they want to be offended. They want to be offended. Why? So that they can get mad and so that they can do those things. But Paul tells us to have some honesty, keep things and provide things honest in the sight of all men, whether it's to our advantage or whether it's to our disadvantage. Because sometimes we do something. Yeah, man, hey, I'm sorry, I was getting out and accidentally kind of hit the door a little wide and it dinged your car. To be honest. I'm not gonna say, oh man, I didn't do that. No, that was on your car before you got here. I didn't do that. No, you know you did that. But it was an accident. I did it intentionally, just accidentally. Door got away from me. It dinged your car. Be honest and represent things honestly. In verse 18, Paul says, if it be possible, as much as life in you, live peaceably with all men. Peter will say something similar also in Peter 2, verse 8 through 14. In there, you can read it, but in there, that text, he says, who is there to harm you if you are zealous for that which is good? Peter, in that book, dealing with conflicts from people on the outside. Second Peter, he's going to deal with conflicts that are internal, folks that were in the church that were causing conflicts. But here in First Peter, he's trying to help them to live peaceably within a pagan society, in a pagan world. So he's encouraging, like, who's there to harm you if you're zealous for that which is good? You are blessed. Who's there to harm you? Peter's saying you should be okay. If you're zealous for that which is good, generally you should be okay. You should be okay. But if you are, if you are receive some backlash and some bad things because of it, Peter says you're still blessed. If you're doing it, if you suffer, because Peter will say, if you suffer as a Christian, you don't have to be ashamed, but glorify God on this behalf. So don't be ashamed, but you should be okay. If you're zealous for that which is good, if we try to be good and do those things that are good, Peter's saying you should be okay. You should be fine. But if you should suffer something, then you are blessed. But then, of course, in that book, just like Paul does here, but the whole goal is to do what? Live peaceably with all men, and to be peaceful. As we close this out, so that's our last point here. I knew we weren't going to get to that last question. The next question is question 10, which talks about the Bible warning about materialism. Brother Maxwell, though, actually did a fantastic job in his sermon last week. But Lord willing, we'll get to that next week if we get to that. But yeah, this is talks about the obligations to our neighbors. How should we live in our neighbors? And because of the world and people are of the world, we're in the world, we're not of the world, but we have to deal. We have to just be on our P's and Q's when we're out there. Remember love. Listen, speak slowly, be what? Slow to speak, swift to hear, try to understand, try to empathize with people. Our goal is to live peacefully in the world, to be peaceful with our neighbors and our community and people that are around us. We don't find time to take insult and to trade insults back and forth, but we try to be at peace. We try to be humble. Sometimes we have to take a little bit, but we're looking at that long goal in time to affect them by the love that we have for us. But at times we might have to actually knock on the door and have that tough conversation. But even if we do knock on the door and have that tough conversation, we do it with love. We do it with humility, and we do it with serious. We can be forceful and direct, but still we have love when we have to have those tough conversations with people who are less than been friendly and cordial to us. So I hope this has blessed you in some way as we close out. This time we'll close and get ready for our worship in about 25 to 28 minutes. So we appreciate your attention and we look forward. We'll see. Hopefully, Brother Maxwell will be back next week. But if not, I'll be back with you and we'll finish out that question 10 and then slide into the second section. I got the lessons. I think Angela made some copies and you can pick out if you want to get the questions and start looking ahead for next week for leadership in the home part 2. We'll have those out here before you leave today. So at this time, you can consider yourselves dismissed as we get prepared for our worship.